Hello,
Hi.
hello, guys. How you doing? Hey, Harry. Hey, Clara. Hey, Twan. Hey, Jess. Hey,
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
because you're French, I always feel like I have to go Dylan.
No, it's better like that. Yes.
Is it just Dylan?
Yeah.
Okay. How you doing, guys?
Very
Good.
good.
Good. I'm still traveling. I'm in a hotel, so I'm not home yet.
I know that, like, the journey's home from Eurovision, and we were all there actually this year. So I was just looking around in the chat, and we've all been to Eurovision. It's always the journey's home. For me, like a bit of a relief, but they always feel really long, and I'm always so tired. And poor Clara's still traveling.
Yeah,
So sorry,
yeah.
the rest of us are home. And you look like you've got a nice hotel room there, Clara.
Yeah. Riga is nice. It's affordable, so you can get something nice for a cheap price.
I have to go to the live. There's so many people in the live chat. Hello, ESE Manga. How you doing? We've got Bailey. Finland is the true winner. I was really not expecting comments about Loreen and Käärijä.
From Rye Bailey of all people as well.
I know. Hey, Fred. Thank you
Hello.
so much. See you too. Thank you for tuning in all through the Eurovision fortnight. We've got Timo ESE fan. Oh, you cried because of PED. We'll have a little chat about PED as well tonight, because we know that it hits people quite hard, and it is a real thing. And if you're kind of only into Eurovision for the first time this year, PED is post-Eurovision depression, an internationally recognised mental health condition.
Yeah.
Where we just miss Eurovision each year when it's over. We've got Giovanna Letizia. Hello to you. You're disappointed with the final results. Should have been Helsinki 2024. We've got Marcus Eriksson. Hello to you. We've got hey, Tank the Player. Yeah, we're going back to Sweden. Wasn't that long ago. So what was it, like 6? So like an
2016.
An 8-year gap. That's reasonable when it comes to Sweden at Eurovision, I think. Hello to Joanne Johnson as well. You enjoyed Eurovision very much. Great 3 shows from Liverpool. Saturday night was one of the best Eurovisions you've ever seen, and you're happy that Sweden won. Rye Bailey, Eurovision never ends for you, or never ends for us either.
That's true.
We still recognise that some of you guys may be missing it. And I have to say hello to ESC Scott, who I got to meet in Liverpool, and is actually kind of a relative of mine who I didn't know had his own Eurovision YouTube channel where he does reactions. So please go and show him some support. And ESC Scott, you got to go to your first Eurovision this year as well. So we would love to see how you found it. But guys, go and show him some love on his channel. We've got hey, Beckett Fitz. Lorraine is number 5 on global Spotify charts. She is. We've got Bubble Pirate. Hey to you, Bubble Pirate. We've got Phi Tan Tran from Vietnam. Wow.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Guys, there's someone that wants to come in and say hello. Yeah. 2 minutes.
Oh, the youngest Eurovox of us.
Hi.
He's never taken me.
Hi. Hi, Henry. Love your t-shirt.
And you're on YouTube now, and all these people can watch you. Say hello.
Hello.
And what was your
Hi.
favourite song this year at Eurovision?
Cha cha cha.
Cha Cha Cha.
Oh, nice. Nice choice. Nice choice, Henry.
Oh, I don't think you got to see the whole show, did you? Because you had to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we'll watch it together. Yeah? You going to say goodbye to everyone?
Bye.
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 The youngest Eurovoxer. Stay tuned, more to come, yeah? Or you're going to hang around and watch me work?
He says I can. Mom says I can do it for 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, we'll make the most of you. Let's say hello to, we've got AXWL Europe. We've got Rena K is saying Turku. That's Finland, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Turku would have been an option.
It could have been in Turku. And Ruben, hello, Ruben. It's nice that you're not the only one with post-Eurovision. You're really, really not. Post-Eurovision depression is all around the world. And Timo ESC fan, hello to you. You're very sweet, Timo, as well. I'm glad you're feeling better. Okay, Gingerbread. Important message on the last video, Andy. ESE resembles a bit of a sports fandom with nationalism, and that should not belong. So, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I posted my thank you video that I do every year, and I spoke a bit about some of the negativity that I've seen personally in the fandom, and how we don't stand for it at Eurovox, and we think everyone should treat each other respectfully. We've got Lee Sanderson. Guys, there's so many of you here. We've got Lee Sanderson. Thank you so much for tuning in, Lee. Does anyone read Greek, I think, or Armenian?
It's Greek, but I can't read
I
those
can't read
characters.
it. No.
It's Anna. Anna, thank you so much for putting your name.
Oh.
And you're living in Liverpool, and it's already so depressing now without all the setup. It's always one of the saddest things whenever you leave a Eurovision city, when you kind of see it go back to normal. And Dylan, you probably got to see a bit of that, because I think you were the last to leave.
Yeah, actually, I left yesterday in the morning, midday. But when I left around noon, the setups were still there. So it was kind of nice still to enjoy it. It didn't felt like I was leaving the Eurovision, because someone else had to close the door and shut the light off. So it's not me. It's good.
It's always so sad to see. While you're here, sir, we've got Henry. Say hello, Henry. That's from Gingerbread. Yeah, I have a feeling you've gone a bit shy.
No.
Have you? I think you've gone a bit shy. We've also got Anna says, "Hey Henry, loved your reaction videos." Yeah. And Bukor, no, he's not my son. He's my nephew. I'm his uncle. His uncle. But anyway, I think you should go and see your mum now. Yeah. Bye. Mwah. Say goodbye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, darling. Hey, Caroline, we've got guys. There's so many of you. We're going to go through, but guys here, I want to know first of all, kind of your favourite moment or moments from Eurovision 2023, and who. Let's go to you first, Twan. And you're not allowed to choose Estonia getting top 10.
Okay, I was going to say that, but my second choice would be Gustaph ending top 10. With all the criticism that he had after winning the national selection, and he really worked his way up to the top, really put in his all, and put an amazing performance that everyone loved. And I'm really glad to see that paid off.
Yeah. And go on, tell us about Estonia as well. I was only joking.
She just proved everyone wrong, didn't she? I kept saying she would do very well with the juries, and I'm glad that was my one prediction that was right this year. So I'm just really glad that Estonia, obviously one of my favorite countries, got in the top 10. Best result since 2018, actually, also 8th. So I'm just very happy for her.
Yeah. Dylan, your favorite moment?
I think it's not related to the show itself. It's more related to the organization. The EBU, the BBC, the city of Liverpool work together to give us some of the great Eurovision I have seen in the past years. This has been my third Eurovision, and I really have to say that the Brits can't throw a party like no one else. And in the end, they really embraced the Eurovision. It was absolutely amazing. The atmosphere was on fire. Everybody was so friendly. It was so easy to get around, to get your ways. The organization overall is the highlight for me in this Eurovision Song Contest 23. And I kind of fear that even Sweden can't match up now the British standards. So good luck, Sweden, because the bar is really high now.
Yeah, and it's, we heard that a lot as well when we were in Liverpool about how high the bar had been set, and I think even Martin Osterdahl had even kind of commented. I saw something in like a local Liverpool news. Apparently, him saying that he would love Eurovision to be hosted in Liverpool every year. Me and Jess and Harry would love that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
It's amazing.
No.
But let's pick up on some of those moments. So let's talk about Gustaph first of all. Now, I have been the first person to say that I didn't give the song a chance when it first came out. But kind of it started to grow on me, and then I met him and I heard his story, and probably one of the songs that I was most happy about qualifying because I knew it meant so much. But then to come top, I think 6th or 7th in the
Seventh.
final. 7th, amazing. And he was not expecting. I don't think Belgium was expecting that. What an amazing result! And this is one of the things that I love most about Eurovision is kind of the underdog coming out of nowhere. But Clara, I know you were a big fan of Gustaph as well.
Yeah, I was also like you at the beginning. I just like wrote it off, but then the more I heard it, the more I got behind it, and I remember coming it on my playlist, and then at some point I just stopped skipping the song and like really leaning into it. And then when I heard it live and I met Gustaph, it really came together, and I thought, okay, this is something. And it is true, we didn't have any sound similar to his song in any of the competing songs, so it really stood out. And I love that there was like a 90s moment on stage.
Yeah, a 90s moment, but has ended up not sounding like a 90s moment for me as well. And I have to say, this song's actually doing really well in kind of UK iTunes and streaming as well at the moment. So, you know, I was 100% wrong about this song, and I'm happy that I was wrong.
I
Harry,
think most of the
fine.
Eurovision fandom was wrong.
Yeah.
Harry, Gustaph.
I think, yeah, I was like you. I was not giving this song much of a chance because, to be fair, for just in general, shout out to Belgium in terms of a forgotten national final, in terms of like how good the quality of the songs and the actual staging of a lot of them was itself. Like, fair play. I hope that does return next year. But in terms of Gustaph, I think actually if you take it out of the national final context and forget about the other songs that were other favorites, it's just so much fun. And I love Gustaf's personality and reaction. His reaction to qualifying for the final was so heartwarming and amazing. And you know what? The moment I knew this was going through to the final was in Barcelona. One of my friends who I'll give a shout out because he's been on the Eurovox podcast before, Connor from Eurovision, kept banging the door down saying, this is qualifying. And up until Barcelona, I was like, oh, I'm not sure. Then I saw him perform in Barcelona. The crowd went crazy. The green room of artists behind loved it. And after the performance, I just turned to him and said, okay, fine, it's qualifying. Like, that sold me. All right. It's just pure fun. And that's what you need at times at Eurovision.
Yeah, no, it was. His reactions have been the best this year. I mean, I'll be one of those people that I would say once I heard Shireen's song after, I was like, how could this not have won the Belgian national selection? But Jess, I think you were also converted.
I was, yeah. I mean, I was kind of in the same boat as you and Harry. I wasn't a massive fan of it when it won Eurosong, and I definitely was Team Shireen back then. But after, it was pretty much when I saw his rehearsals in Liverpool that I was starting to think, okay, this is actually really quite amazing. This could qualify and do really well. And, you know, I just think Gustaph is like the definition of fabulous. Like, everything he brought to the stage was so great. Him and his dancers and singers. And it was just such an uplifting moment on stage. It just got exactly what it deserved, top 10.
Yeah, and Dylan, actually, there's a question for you. So before we talk about the organisations, I know you picked that as one of your highlights. Bubble Pirate wants to know: do you think June the Girl should try again to participate for France?
I mean, you'd have to ask them. I have no idea. Maybe. I mean, I know France is going through some trouble at the moment after the disappointment endured by Zarra. So there will be some internal questioning and probably some new selection, maybe a new final. But I don't have any idea at the moment. But maybe they should try. Apparently this year, the French delegation internally rejected some song from Slimane, for instance, in The Prophet of Zarra.
Slimane?
Yeah, because they were really sure Zarra would nail it. And so, well, didn't happen like it was planned to. So we shall see. But maybe some racial French delegation will happen.
I didn't know that. Slimane is one of my favourite French artists at the moment.
Oh, really?
You know, it was this close to get in, but the storm arrived and then got kicked. Oh, fine.
Well, I'm glad because I loved Évidemment. It was one of my favourite songs this year.
Oh,
but
I know you love it.
Dylan, you picked kind of the organisations one of your favourite moments. Yeah. So, Jess,
If I had to pick kind of like a standout, I would probably go with Dylan and just the whole organization of everything, and the fact that I got to experience Eurovision in my own country. And obviously I know that it was, you know, in collaboration with Ukraine, but just being on home soil for Eurovision was just an incredible experience for me that I never thought would happen in my lifetime. And just seeing how much the UK and Liverpool embraced Eurovision and how Eurovision, the whole city felt, no matter where you went, there was just Eurovision around the corner and you just couldn't escape it. And it was just so incredible to see that. The vibe and the atmosphere was just so great. I just wish every host city could be like this.
And Clara, Clara and Jess, we arrived very, very early. So we arrived before even the artists had started arriving for their rehearsals. And you just felt it when you got there.
The atmosphere was amazing. I had never been to Liverpool before. And I was sold in the city immediately because there's so many music going on and like so many performances, even in the pubs where you walk down the street and you can, it's not only Eurovision, there's like a real musical culture that we all benefit from. So I was really happy to be there all the time. And also Euroclub was amazing.
Yeah, we've, I think both me and Clara have become like the biggest Liverpool. Like we actually want to move to Liverpool. So
we were walking around saying, I could see myself living here.
Yeah. So either if there's anyone from Liverpool watching that's single and wants to get married, I'll quite happily move up there. If you happen to have like a penthouse apartment overlooking the docks with a nice view of the Liver building as well, you'll get prioritised. Yeah, I can't wait to go back to Liverpool. And I've been saying to everyone today, like people at work and stuff, like, oh, if you've not been to Liverpool, you need to go to Liverpool. It's an amazing city. But let's talk about, because Dylan spoke about the organisation as well. Of Eurovision. So we're talking about the show itself. Now, Harry, your thoughts on kind of the production, everything involved, the lighting, the staging, the presenters.
I think overall it's the best hosted show in Eurovision history, in my opinion. Like the hosts were amazing. Hannah Waddington will go down in Eurovision host history as up there with Petra Mede, in my opinion, as a top level host. And the others were also great. I loved, and this rarely happens, I loved every single interval act that they brought. The Duncan Lawrence's rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone moved me to pieces. The visuals in there were incredible. Even the drag queen thing in semi-final 2 was just so much fun and brought so much joy. When I was there in the arena for it, I thought it was amazing. The stage was incredible. And one thing we've got to talk about as well, which is a key highlight. I think this year will go down as some of the most iconic and best stagings some of the countries have ever brought to the contest. Like Sweden was great, Norway was great, an underrated one potentially Armenia I thought was fantastic. So Finland, of course, was incredible. Like just so many good Spain, even though it didn't get the result it deserved. France, like so many good stagings. I thought
Germany
was amazing.
also had really good staging.
Germany as well, and that is partly down to the capabilities that the BBC and the stage itself allowed countries to be able to express like such great staging. That it's truly incredible how good this year was.
What's worth noting about the staging as well is there was nothing like really over the top or complex or complicated. Staging was, it was generally very simple. I know we had Loreen in her kind of box. I'm trying to think of anything that was really kind of overly technical and nothing is standing out. Oh, Zarra, of course. With
Armenia's was quite technical with the projection thing.
And Serbia, yeah. But other than that, it was people were going for what seemed like to be quite simple in terms of props and things. Were quite simple, and I actually quite like that. No one's got anything to say.
No, I want to say something about organization. I went to Liverpool for one day, and the atmosphere in the city was amazing. I was immediately like, oh, I would come back here. I said to Polly, who's also in Team Eurovox, we would come back here outside of Eurovision. The city was really, really nice. And in terms of productions of the show, Hannah Waddingham, Queen, I will say though that the camera work sometimes was a bit sloppy, but not too noticeable. Not that it made me dislike any performance, but there were just some things that was like, oh.
Yeah, no, it was you know, it still feels like a bit of a dream to me. But anyway, Clara, I'm going to come to you for some of your best moments.
Well, my best moment was, one of the most exciting moments was Käärijä surpassed Lorraine in the votes. And we were all like there wondering, is Lorraine going to get more points or not? I think that was like so exciting for everyone. And I was sitting next to Andy and Jess, and I could see everyone like getting super, what's it gonna happen? That was a great moment. Other great moments for me was like connecting with the Polish team. That was really nice. And Luxembourg being back. That's also a great news. And getting hearing all of this chatter about the preparations or what Luxembourg is going to do, how is it going to come back. So that was really nice.
Harry, some of your best moments.
So I'd say my best moments are more from general the season itself, but they link to Liverpool. Honorable mention for me personally was actually meeting some Eurovision artists and interviewing them. If you'd have told me when I became a fan, 5 years ago, that I'd be speaking to various Eurovision artists, I would have called you insane. So that any Eurovision artist that I've met is surreal, and long may it continue into future years. But I think overall the sort of it's more a general style of moment was just sort of seeing the joy that certain songs, certain parts of Eurovision can bring, and just watching it. Like, I apologize, Clara, I'm going to mention something about you here, but it is genuinely one of my favorite moments. One of my favorite highlights of the Eurovision season was watching Ruslana in Barcelona with you, and just seeing your reaction. It brought me so much. It's the fact that Eurovision songs and moments can bring so much joy and happiness to various people, I think is amazing. And I remember at the end, when Sweden had just won and they were doing the winner's reprieve, and I think emotions were just sort of swelling in my head. It was partly the fact Eurovision was coming to an end, partly the fact we'd had this crescendo at the end. But I just took a moment to sort of look around the Eurovision village where I was watching and just see the fun, the dance, the joy everyone was having. And it got me a bit emotional. And it just thought, wow, look, think about this moment we're in, what the power Eurovision has. So I'd say overall that was sort of my feelings towards my favorite moment.
Yeah, it's the moments of unity. It's the moments where you feel as one with so many people and so many countries and so many nationalities that you wonder, how can so many people from so many different backgrounds and cultures manage to be one for maybe 3 minutes or the whole season? It's really, really amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love and I have to say, I obviously wasn't there when Clara met Ruslana, but I did see a bit of the footage before the interview, and I could just see how much it meant to you to be meeting her, because it's your favorite Eurovision
artist
ever. So, and
she called my sister.
I know. I thought she was actually never going to let you go.
Neither did me and Tommy in Barcelona, and we were there.
Yeah.
But it just shows how much Eurovision means to people. And one of the things that came up in the comments before was about the kind of toxicity that we've seen this year. And it really kind of all came to a head a number of times. We saw a lot kind of around the Polish selection, and I know people have their own thoughts on that, but we saw it especially from the crowd directly in front of the artists at especially the Barcelona pre-party, I believe. And we're now starting to see some really toxic comments about Lorraine winning Eurovision. And it's like I said earlier, Eurovision has the best fans, but it also has some of the worst fans. And I really hope that as we progress into kind of starting to prepare for Eurovision 2024, that kind of dies down a bit, because it's been getting worse and worse and worse every year, and it's not really acceptable to me. I don't know if anyone else has. I mean, I know some of you guys here are more active in kind of social media groups. I'm
quite active on Twitter and Facebook as well.
Yeah.
And it's full of hate. And it's just sad to see the artists loving each other so much. Loreen and Käärijä love each other so much. Loreen wants to work with Käärijä. Käärijä was one of Loreen's favorites. And it's just sad to see people being so mean to each other and to the artists just because one of their favorites didn't win.
And every so often mean to us as well. And I will say that as well. You know, I regularly, not regularly, but every so often I have to remove comments about us that are really nasty or hateful. But yeah, it just needs to end. It upsets me and it really concerns me that this is the way not only Eurovision is heading, but potentially the world is heading.
The population, I remember the past years, there was the hate wasn't so obvious. I wonder why people are getting braver. Like, what is enabling them? Because as a society, that's sort of troubling.
I would argue that.
I'm just going to say they're not getting braver because these people will never stand behind a name or a photo of themselves, but they're quite happy to spit out vile comments to artists and people that they're actually doing something with their lives. But anyway, sorry, Harry, I totally cut you off. But I just
it's fine. To be fair, I was going to say something similar, that these people aren't brave. They're to be fair, personally, I find hate comments on Eurovision quite amusing and funny, mainly because just how people think they have that much power that they can change people, the perception of people, whether it's through like these change.org things that we saw a few of in the year. I find it all knee-jerk reaction or just various things, and it's easy to do via social media. I'm not on Twitter, which I always joke saying I think makes me a better person, but that's I find that a bit arrogant, but I don't. There's some truth to that, but I feel like, look, the problem I think we have is the people that send hateful comments. If they're watching, which there's 170 people are. If you are a person that sends hateful comments, first of all, hello, thank you, welcome to the channel. And second of all, I feel like they're not gonna change because certain people say stuff. Sadly, I think you're preaching to the wrong choir. Sadly, it's a vocal minority. The majority of Eurovision fans are amazing. We've seen that from in-person meetings, and just generally people are very nice about comments about songs. It's just a shame. I think just the way we approach it is ignore them. The less power we give people like this, the better.
Yeah, I remember I watched Eurovision because for me it was a window to other cultures and new sounds that I couldn't get from my own country, and it was amusing, and there was so much positive things and so many things I was fascinated from that I never I would never think of sending so much hate. Like, why would you want to spend so much time focusing on that when there is so many amusing things about the show that you can focus on?
And let's just be clear, this isn't about having a difference of opinion. This is about really nasty, hateful stuff that people are saying. I know you say to ignore it, Harry, but we're really privileged to have a big platform here. And yes, we will ignore comments against us. But I think we also need to speak out and say when we think it's wrong. And I do personally think it's wrong. We'll always speak out about that. But hopefully next year it won't happen so much. And talking about a difference of opinion, there's going to be a huge difference of opinion in terms of who won Eurovision this year and how it was decided. And it's just about putting that across respectfully. And we will all have our own personal choices. I will put my hands up and say I would have preferred Käärijä to win Eurovision, but I'm not going to take anything away from Loreen. And just to see how that song is now doing commercially proves it to be a deserved winner, which won by the rules that were in place. And that's what we will always have to say, whether you agree with those rules or you don't. It won by those rules. But in any other kind of notable things that anyone wants to talk about in terms of Eurovision this year before we go back to the chat?
I can't think of anything.
Sorry,
maybe the chat will inspire us.
Well, I think there's so much that you don't know what to choose. I think that's the case.
Oh, I love this comment from Emily De Forest. Lackluster career. It's because Loreen is a celebrity while Käärijä was more like a friend.
Yeah.
It does feel like you see on social media a lot of the artists, and Käärijä has made so many friends, and a lot of artists are supporting Käärijä. And I feel like there's some truth in that, because a lot of there's this video going around of May Muller seeing Loreen for the first time, and she was completely starstruck. So I feel there's some truth in the fact that Loreen's perceived as a sort of celebrity.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of videos of Loreen hanging around with the artists, being friends with them.
Yeah, I mean, Loreen seemed to be less approachable than Käärijä. He seems to be the friend you would like to hang out with, the one that is always ready to cheer you up, the one making a lot of jokes. I mean, I was in the Village when he was performing last week between the two semifinals. And in between the songs he was playing, he was just making jokes, introducing the team members of Finland, the Finnish delegation, but also his crew. He was talking with the audience, the crowd. He was very likable, you know, while on the opposite, Loreen seemed to be on a higher ground, less accessible, maybe cold to some people, but that doesn't mean she's a bad singer. It doesn't even mean that she's like that in real life. Maybe she was overwhelmed by the stress and the tension because she has been announced as a winner for so long, you know, that she wanted to actually win to meet up the expectation. So that's a lot of pressure. And we shouldn't draw any conclusion based on what we see on TV for maybe like 15 minutes or 30 minutes in 1 week. That's unfair. And also, as Tuan said, she is a great friend with many of the artists. She proved it on her social media. Many of the artists have congratulated her on several occasions. And so I think all the hate is undeserved, even though we might not agree with the performance. We might have different tastes. That's for sure something acceptable. But hate doesn't belong in such a contest. I think it's really a shame, and the community has to get it together, because we don't want to become a toxic community like other sports can be. It would bring the contest down, and in the end, it would only help the contest to evolve in a direction that no one wants to see.
Oh God, Dylan for president.
Dylan for president. Oh!
We love you, Dylan. And
Dylan, I can tell you're in politics.
And Maria, yes, of course you can express disagreement. That's not what we're saying. But you've said your point there, and you said it in a respectful way. But there's a number of people that are sending even death threats to artists over their Eurovision participation, and it's just not on.
It's totally fair to be disappointed with if your winner didn't win, but it's in the way that you bring it. It's you don't have to send hate to any of the artists, to any other fans who like the winner. That's just not the right thing to do.
100%. Let's say hello to User who's supporting Käärijä. We've got B Mac. You say relax and listen to Baby.
I'm gonna miss that.
I doubt we've said a word more over the past 2 weeks than Baby.
Baby.
I'm gonna miss looking at you guys and go Baby.
Baby.
I will say though about Poland, I really like how she's taken the whole Baby thing and turned it into what it is now. Like she could have either completely ignored it or made a post about it to stop doing it, but she completely turned it around and is in on the joke. Even put a Baby on the turquoise carpet look. So she really did that very, very well.
Yeah, and respect to her for that.
Yeah. I mean, I was really surprised, as Tuan said, because she really got the best out of it. She even took part in a Eurovision video where the artists were singing some of the comments they received online. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because she was one of the only one to sing a comment that was actually a hate comment. And I thought that it also proved that, you know, if the artist will receive these threats, as for instance, can take a step back and try to make the most of it, then we should also be able to chill a bit, guys. And she was really funny in the end, and she proved everyone wrong, because not only she qualified for the final, but also she got one of the she was, I think, top 10 in the televote, which is really unexpected, at least from the beginning. It wasn't expected. So I think it's she was one of the funny artists this year as well as Käärijä, and even though she was, of course, on a different theme, but she was really nice to see around.
Yeah. Someone in the live chat put it really well. She diffused the bad vibes really well done.
Yeah, and she's one of the artists that has gone through one of the toughest journeys as well, I think, this year.
Oh, for sure.
So you have to, whether you liked the song or not, and I hate to come back to UK iTunes, but it's and UK charts, but it's the only one that I have access to. But she's currently number 7 in the UK iTunes chart here as well. So people seem to like the song.
There's no denying the fact that the song is super catchy. It's a very summer song, and people will inevitably really like it a lot.
Why don't you sing a bit for us, Harry?
We all know you can sing after you admitted
One day
it.
we're going to get Harry to sing on this channel because Harry's got a nice voice.
One day, Andy, that is correct.
Actually,
not that.
I didn't know, like, Jessica told me that you could sing, like, a few hours before we went to Euroclub, and I heard you sing in Euroclub, and Guy, you really have a good voice. You didn't think people were listening to you, but I was listening.
But talking of Voxers with nice voices, you must also go and check out our TikTok because Sarah, who's one of our Voxers from the Netherlands, has also got a fantastic voice. And she has done a couple of duets with Eurovision, not like in-person duets, but, you know, when you can duet on TikTok. So go and follow us on TikTok and check out some of our content on there, actually, because there's some stuff on there that you won't find on our YouTube channel. But yeah, make sure you check out Sarah's duets and give her a follow as well. Bubble Pirate would like to know, would we like to see Zoe participate again for Austria in 2024?
Yeah.
I would be more interested to see more Austrian artists because actually musically I know very little about Austria when it comes to music. So I'm very curious to see what's up in the Austrian music scene.
And talking about Austria, can we talk about how incredible it was that Teya and Salena made up the whole top 3 of that selection? They revealed in an interview that they were together the first place of the selection, and then they both had a solo song that was also in the top 3 of the selection. So them two made up the whole top 3 of that selection. Props to them for that.
That's so cool.
Because that was like a Eurovision writing camp, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it was like an internal selection with a demoscopic jury that chose the entry, and they were the top 3.
Yeah. Well, talking of demoscopic jury, that's been one of the phrases that's been thrown about a bit because obviously there's a discussion happening about juries and televotes, and you know when you look at the winners and how the winners have been chosen over the years, they haven't all been televote winners. Duncan Lawrence wasn't a televote or a jury winner, I don't think.
No.
Kalush obviously weren't a jury winner. I think they came 6th with the jury.
I think.
Fourth with the juries, and then obviously smashed the televote last year. We had who what are they called? My boys from Italy.
Måneskin.
No.
Il Volo.
You know, there was televote winners, but didn't win Eurovision. It's going to be a discussion every year until we get a song that wins both. And I think we've only had that with Salvador.
Yeah.
Yeah. Recently, yeah.
No, that's it. Salvador won both. Salvador won both.
I'm looking at you, Harry, because you've got like Eurovision.
No. Since they split it into 50% televote, 50% jury with the vote, Salvador's the only one that's won both.
Yeah, so it's always going to be that raging discussion, and even more so now because there was so much love for 2 songs and 2 artists in particular this year. But we have seen, and Benidorm Fest is one of those shows, Clara, that uses a demiscopic jury. Perhaps you just want to explain what that is to some people that may not know what that is.
So to my understanding, the people that vote on, for example, Benidorm Fest or on Eurovision, it's not actually a good representation of like the whole society, of the society as a whole, because there are certain sectors of the population who are voting, and then you get everyone so angry, but they didn't vote because maybe they are more into sports than Eurovision. So the demoscopic vote gets people from all, or intends to get people from all the different sectors of society, background, cultural background, economic background, belief system, and they try to make a vote with them. So it would be more of a representation of what the whole society would think, instead of like the audience who the show is aimed at. if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like obviously at the moment we have the professional music industry experts, and it would be more a demoscopic jury that's based on kind of a broad makeup of the public, kind of. So it's still kind of the public deciding, but in a slightly different way. So you're getting rid of you're either getting rid of the international juries, or you could have two juries, so a music professional and a demoscopic jury that together maybe make up 50% of the vote. So in a sense, the public is kind of making up 75%.
I would be up for them to try that next year or the year after that, the demoscopic jury.
I'm less keen. I think the voting question is the first year the demoscopic jury winner wins and then the televote winner doesn't. Where does the complaints go? It goes to the demoscopic jury. My point with sort of the general, first of all, I don't think the demoscopic jury would work in Eurovision simply because why would you try, as much as you want to try and get new fans in, why would you try and cater to get a jury that isn't like Eurovision fans? Like, surely, in a sense, hypothetically, if we had a demoscopic jury this year, I would argue that the main percentage of the votes for Loreen came from the general public who maybe hadn't seen the first song, a more casual viewer, compared to Käärijä, who was more, obviously had general support, but he also had the support of the Eurovision fans. Surely a demoscopic jury who has no idea about Eurovision or it's not catered to them would either go for Loreen or would go for something that matches the reputation of the contest in their country, such as maybe give it a couple of years ago, people from the UK and Spain would give 12 points to Croatia or just something like that, something WTF like crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then sort of my overall thoughts, which is on this like debate about, oh, we should have 100% televote. It's like, I'm like, I would love to know how many people who were complaining about should be 100% televote also complained about the impact of the televote Ukraine's win had last year, where it had 400 points and people said, oh, it won because of the sympathy vote or something like that. And then track back to, oh, Sam Ryder. I just to say, because I am a Brit, I'm not saying this is my words. People say, oh, Sam Ryder was the real winner because he won in second place and was the jury winner. So when did the jury become less important? It's like, it's just every year, I think the vocal minority who complain about Eurovision are only just fitting a solution to the narrative that they want. So this year they want Käärijä to win. Okay, 100% televote. Last year they didn't want Kalush to win because the televote was potentially not based on the song. Oh, okay, the jury should have had more points and Sam Ryder's the real winner. It's like, I'm not even going to say pick a side. It's just like, accept that this happens year to year, that sometimes the jury has more impact, sometimes the televote has more impact. That's just the way it's going to be. It's the fairest currently as it is with a 50-50 system, because you still get the quality being represented with the juries, as we saw with like Italy, Estonia, Australia getting the high points from them. And you still have your own televote where the diaspora can be linked a bit more with Albania maybe, and Poland getting some higher points, and just more fun songs like Finland getting the high points. Just accept that that's the fairest system and let's move on, you know. Sorry if that was a bit ranty, but I've got strong feelings on this.
What I do think though is
I want to Harry under a cold shower for a second. I get it. I'm a supporter of having the juries in Eurovision. However, voting and Eurovision will always have to evolve. So I would be happy at them looking at another method. And we said this the other day. There's countries, they have to get the balance right as well. There's countries like Turkey that just simply don't want to come back to a contest that involves the juries. Whereas you've got countries like San Marino and Luxembourg, some of the smaller countries maybe. Luxembourg returning is a big thing, and I don't think they would be returning if there was no juries, and I wonder whether the juries will be brought back for the semi-finals for that reason, or whether a year out for the juries for the semi-finals. So it's about getting that balance. I'm happy for them to look at alternative ways, but still have that balance between professional. And if it means that we have a jury made up of 25% industry professionals, 25% demoscopic, and then a 50% televote, I could support an option like that, because I think you've still got that balance there. It will never be right for everyone, and unfortunately Eurovision has the task of well, they don't have the task of pleasing everyone because you watch a contest by that contest rules, but I'm sure they will be looking at it maybe for looking at and are always looking at different options.
Yeah,
What I
someone
do
made
think-
a really good. Sorry, go ahead, one. Oh,
Well, what I
when
do think is though that when the 100% televote semis were announced, I remember the fandom going nuts. No one liked it, and a couple of days ago, when Martin Österdahl even mentioned 100% televote final, people were not liking it at all. So I think it's a bit weird to see the shift now. I think people are very high in their emotions, and that also plays a part. But I do really want to see the EBU not experiment, but look further into the other options that there are.
Well, there was a very interesting comment about the juries, that maybe they should not all be like pop expert juries. Maybe the jury should be like broader in the music sphere, not only pop song juries. So
yeah, I personally think that they should not remove the jury, but I think they should revise the jury system. So, for example, some juries have 4 people on them, some juries have 5 people on them. I would say have 10 people on them from different parts of the music industry, from pop to rock, opera, maybe ballads, like slow songs, so that you have different perspectives on one jury and you get maybe a more general idea. I'm not sure. I think they should look into it.
Yeah, and I hope they do. But, my main reason for not getting rid of the juries is I think that having the juries back has really helped evolve the quality of Eurovision and has resulted in some big worldwide hits for artists. And Måneskin is one of the best examples of that, and also Duncan Lawrence as well. And we wouldn't have had those songs if it wasn't for we probably would have had Måneskin because
and let's be fair, if we had 100% Teya this final, Blanca Paloma would have ended dead last, and you cannot ignore the quality that performance had. So I think that's a really good reason why the juries exist to up those kind of songs.
And we also have to keep in mind that independently of the composition of the jury or the rules that dictate the jury's votes, the guidelines they have, juries are just like us, human beings. And in the end, they vote based on their primal emotions, connections with the song, but also their interests. And it's true, probably, because in the end, like, let's take an example. Clara would represent Spain and would be a jury member for France. Even if the song wasn't my favorite or the best, I might still give her a lot of points because she's my friend. It's also based on that. And this is just about us being human beings. So we can't blame the jury for doing what we would do in their shoes and what we have probably done in our lives at different level as well. So I say we should chill, we should take a step back. We're unhappy, emotional about sometimes the result, but that's life. And Loreen is not hasn't stolen the trophy at all. Yes, she was allowed to participate again, but what? It's not against the rules. She could have actually been penalized for that, because many people could have said, look, she won already 11 years or 10 years ago. I don't want to vote for her. She had a chance. Let's move on to someone else. She didn't. She won nonetheless because the people said, well, she was great 10 years ago. She's still great. I'm giving her my votes. So again, based on our emotion, our personal feelings, we cannot generalize and imagine that there is a miraculous solution. There is no miraculous solution. There will always be leftovers, people unhappy. And let's just move on, guys, because really, Loreen won. There is nothing we can do about it, whether you like it or not. So let's go with the flow and move on. We're going to Sweden next year. Sweden knows how to throw a great party, knows how to organize Eurovision. So let's be happy for that, at least,
Yeah, and let's start saving money now.
Yes, good idea. Good idea.
Guys, I have to say that there's so many people in the chat that we're not going to be able to read all the comments, and I'm really sorry about that. So if there's anyone that is normally in our lives and we've not said hello to you, it's just because we haven't seen your comment. It's not intentional. And I can see Robbie Keelty in there as well. We have to say hello to you, Robbie, because well, we've met you at 2 Eurovisions now. We met you in Turin last year, and we met you in Liverpool this year, which was really nice. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing very well and had a good Eurovision. Francesco M. Hey, Francesco. What do we think about Marco Mengoni's performance? So I'm going to start with you, Dylan.
I mean, I think Margot, I think I said it in the prediction video on our channel before the final that he was underrated for weeks and that he would do absolutely great in the final. I was right. Sorry to say so, but you should listen to me. No, not to drag on. I mean, Italy really knows how to give the Eurovision amazing performances. Every year, the guys are in the top 10. They do amazing. I mean, I'm glad for Italy. I'm glad for Marco Mengoni because he did great. It wasn't my favorite song. To be really honest, it wasn't even in my top 10. I don't get anything from the song, but I'm really glad for him because he brought us on the stage himself. He put himself out there. He was authentic for the whole contest. And in the end, his works and his performance paid off. I'm really, really happy for him. I'm a bit sad for the other big five because every year they more or less are sacked. And I feel kind of sad because as someone mentioned earlier, Spain did an amazing performance and didn't deserve so little points from the televote. Really, it's undeserved. I don't know if this big five system is playing against the big five or not. But in the end, I'm glad for Italy because it's the one country in the big five that proves that, you can actually have some quality content and get rewarded for it. So go Italy, I have to say.
Yeah, and we say this, Italy doesn't send a song that's been written for Eurovision. Never.
Nope.
So, Jess, Marco Mengoni's performance this year.
I loved his performance. I thought it was so classy. And I loved the dances that he had on stage with him, kind of bouncing, I think, on a trampoline. I thought that was really kind of impactful. I think maybe there was a bit too much distance between Marco and the dancers, and it was difficult to fit them all in kind of the camera view. But overall, the overall kind of look and vibe of the staging, I just thought was really good.
And his vocal, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I didn't feel any personal connection to the song, but I got it in my top 10 because it was just so good. The vocals were there, the staging was classy, and he just filled the whole stage with his presence and his persona. So I thought it was going to do really well, even if it's not the what.
No, I was just going to say, I'm actually starting to feel emotional thinking about imagine his performance.
Yeah.
And it was just really emotional. And it wasn't one of my favorite Italian entries. There's Italian entries that I've liked more. And I probably liked L'Essenziale more than Due Vita. But just watching that performance and him give everything, what a vocalist. It's insane. I want to see him back again. And people hate me for saying that, but he's, for me, just one of the best vocalists that Eurovision has ever seen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. No,
come on.
You sometimes need very little staging when the song is so good.
Well, I wasn't a fan of the song at first. I was like, it's okay, but I was like, this might be forgotten. But actually seeing his jury rehearsal for the semi-final that I was in, I think it was first semi-final, I got really moved, really emotional. It was a really, really good performance, and that was the point that it was kind of the turning point for me, that I started loving the performance. And I was just outside of my top 10, and this got a really deserved placement. And I think the dancers actually were a really nice touch. Well, I wasn't sure about them at first. I think it was really nice, and I quite liked them in the background because it was kind of like they were connected with him, but also disconnected. And the only negative thing that I can say about this is that sometimes I didn't feel Marco connecting with the camera enough. it kind of felt like he wasn't singing to the camera, or singing to the arena. But that was the only thing that I had.
But sometimes I think that can be just as effective. It's one of those things where a lot of the time we talk about artists not connecting, and most of the time we want them to connect with the audience. But sometimes there are these songs where they will just go so far into themselves to give that performance of their lives. But it's also kind of the depending on what the meaning of the song is as well. So it's yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was watching him most of the time. I couldn't even hear him sing. Yeah, it was a really special performance for me, and it just demonstrates why I never ever want Italy to leave this competition again, because every year they just bring quality. And why wasn't I born Italian?
We'd have so much more joy at Eurovision, Addy, wouldn't we?
I know.
Italy or Sweden.
Harry, your thoughts on Marco's performance?
Well, I think that there are just certain styles at Eurovision that will be timeless. And I think the stripped back ballads that I would argue both Italy and Estonia to an extent actually brought this year will be one of those styles. It just never goes out. There'll always be an audience for this. There'll always be that connection with the artist that you can feel and get emotional towards. And I think when it comes to Italy and Marco has this unique ability where he doesn't need staging. I sort of like joke that the people in the trampolines is one of the most ambitious and complex staging Italy have sent in the last few years, because it's actually just a prop. They never really have stuff usually. But when it comes to Marco himself, when it comes to him in the circular stage at the front, he has this unique ability. He showed it in 2013 and he showed it this year. Just give him a microphone and he will do the rest. Like, it doesn't really matter what's going on behind him. He will captivate you with his voice, with his stage presence. One of his entry in 2013 is my favorite Italian entry ever, actually. And it doesn't have any staging. It's just Marco walking around the stage in Sweden, just telling his story. And that's what Marco is. He's a storyteller, and I think that came across. I always knew this was going to do well with juries, because this is pure jury bait. But Italy also have that universal sound with their language, with their style of music, where this was also going to do well with the televote. So, yeah, this wasn't getting talked about really much in the community, partly because I think just the diehard community just prefer more upbeat stuff, more unique stuff than maybe what Marco was sending. But this was always going to do well because it is Italy and that's their style.
And I also think with Italy, because we're used to them sending such quality every year, that unless it's like something different for them, it probably doesn't get talked about, because we're kind of used to it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because they kind of just turn up and then wow us and then get loads of points. And I have to say as well that you would hear about trampoline and this song and you think, what the hell? But for me, that whole kind of trampolining thing going on in the background was just beautiful. And I don't know why I think it was beautiful, because it shouldn't have worked, but it just all worked. And I didn't find it distracting either, because he drags your attention towards him when you just see how he's kind of connecting to a song and delivering it. And let's just talk about Marco Mengoni for the rest of the
You know what I think also put it over the edge? It would have maybe been done a little bit worse. But the fact that the camera cut to Eurovox's own Samuele immediately after the performance, I think swayed some votes, didn't it?
yeah, definitely.
We had a Voxer on screen after Italy's performance this year, which was, and we all did the same thing, went, Samuele!
Yeah.
Literally going, Oh, I love Italian passion. Anyway, we've got to say hello to Riyadh. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us. We have got, I saw something for Clara somewhere. And Clara, you mentioned the guys in the background. Did you? I don't think they distracted us before.
I did. I said that because in the rehearsals, the camera angles weren't so well done. It was more like probably even like test wise, and I could see, like, I could one of the angles or like the camera shots I remember very vividly. It's like I see Marco Mengoni and something like suddenly something falls behind, like bang and bang. And they weren't, the camera wasn't so zoomed in to Marco, so it was quite distinctive, and it looked like somebody jumping down or like something has fell. And at that point, it was distracting. But I think the way they did it in the final, because I felt it was more blurred. The background was more blurred. It wasn't so clear. It really worked in the end.
Yeah, I didn't notice it a lot, really. Twonk, I don't know how I feel about this Twonk. I think I know Dylan was saying about, we can have artists back again, but
I mean,
well,
although they've brought some of the best results for Ireland, haven't they?
Yeah.
Recently,
Talking about Ireland, I just think they should change everything up, change the whole team, because the core of how they do at Eurovision is in the team that's doing Eurovision, and changing that team. We saw it with Finland in 2020. UMK was led by a different person, and since then, look how Finland's done. And I think if they just choose a new team and a completely new approach, I think Ireland can do very well. So, yeah,
I think when it comes to Ireland, it's not only the team, although that is a big factor. To be fair, I mean, they've got since the head of delegation took over, I think they've got one of, if not the worst qualification record in Eurovision. But it also comes down to the perception of the contest in a country. And I am speaking as a Brit here as well, don't worry. When the perception of your contest is that, oh, Europe hates us, it's all political and stuff, immediately your mind gets excuses. So it's like, oh, it's nothing that we've done. Oh, it's just the rest of the world. It's like, maybe at times, hear me out, it is what you've done and just the package itself. Because like one thing that really annoyed me from this year Eurovision is if anyone saw the deleted Instagram post from the lead singer of Wild Youth, Connor, basically saying no one gave us a chance. Okay, maybe you didn't receive the best reaction for the song. If it was done in a peaceful way, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, anything that Andy or just we've mentioned here, that if they receive that, yeah, that's not okay. But at the same time, every other artist that didn't qualify for us, semi-final 1, semi-final 2, took it graciously, was happy for the experience, and moved on with some dignity. I think just doing that, and also they posted on their story a repost of a famous Irish, I say famous, a well-known Irish songwriter who had some credibility, I guess. I can't remember her name, I apologize. Basically complaining that there was songs that were worse than Ireland that qualified and that this is ridiculous, why do we keep doing this? They reposted that and also said from well-known charts songwriter. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you claim Connor claims he's a fan of Eurovision as well. And I say claims, I do believe he's a fan. But surely he must know, if he's a fan, that there's just differing opinions and that it's not the case of people didn't give Ireland a chance. It's just that style of song doesn't work at Eurovision anymore. That staging doesn't work at Eurovision anymore. All that stuff.
Yeah,
so it's all about perception.
It's all about perception. And it's really good to touch on this because, for example, a good example is Benidorm Fest. In Spain, we had really bad perception. But then what happened? Some people in the delegation changed, some people within the television changed, and they threw up Benidorm Fest, which was a really big success last year. This year, maybe it's not as successful. It's really not a success. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be like the success is going to stop coming. They just have to keep trying because it's the first time the Benidorm Fest formula worked. Who is to say that it can't keep working?
Yeah, exactly. So I think they should just change up the team, and then I'm confident that they can bring it.
I think if they could kind of take a lesson from the UK, I think that could work very well for them because it obviously worked very well for us with Sam Ryder last year. We didn't quite have the same success this year with May Muller, but you could tell that we were putting in so much effort into our finding the right song and the performer and the staging. And you could tell that just in general, like the whole attitude towards Eurovision just seemed a lot more positive. And compared to previous years. And so I think, you know, if they were to do something big like we did, or even like Spain did with Benidorm Fest and Finding Chanel, you know, even something like this, I think could get them on the right track to at least qualifying.
And also Tommy from Eurovox would be up for running a selection show for Irish Eurovision. So if there is a vacant job, I'm going to bring this up actually because I want to address something. So, girls, I'm sorry, but critique for Jess and Clara. You guys were too skeptical about Albania's entry, but I'm happy that in spite of you, they made it through. You have to embrace different cultures. I don't know anyone that embraces different cultures more than Jess and Clara and the rest of the people in this team. And I think you've obviously taken offence to something that was said. I have not seen anything on our channel that has been critical about Albania. I think we've spoken about them in a very professional manner. Yes, there may have been when someone misspoke and they acknowledged that. And so, yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, Riyadh, but unfortunately, I don't agree with you, and I will always stand up for my girls on this. And I think they've said a lot of positive things about Albania's entry throughout the season.
And it's in the end, it's also just musical taste, and you don't have to like every song.
Yeah.
But appreciate everyone's just free to say what they think, and you've not done it in a disrespectful way, Riyadh, which is why I pulled your comment up. Eurovision Gold, should a prize be introduced for the most beautiful man in Eurovision? Well, Dylan or Tran would get the prize. Okay?
The nominees are
Marco Mengoni. I think we have a winner already. You know, no need to go through a selection of nominees. Andy, you pick Marco, and that's fine. You're the boss, so we
let's Jay Stan, you're hoping Sweden equaling Ireland's record gives them the kick up the backside that they need. I think so. I can't see Ireland leaving Eurovision. No. I do think now that they will have a refresh. And just to say again that Tommy is available, just in case there is anyone from I forgot what they're called. What's the RTE? RTE is watching. What do we think, Dav MLT? What do we think the semi results with them being televote only? What were our biggest surprises from these results? Georgia.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, Georgia.
I think Georgia and Malta. Malta coming last.
I genuinely think the only song that would have made it through with the juries would have been Georgia. I don't think the other qualifiers would have changed.
I disagree.
Also,
I think Latvia would have made it. I think Latvia would have made it through with a jury. I was actually, to be fair, even though it qualified, I was surprised how low Serbia's televote was, because usually they do quite well with the televote. And also, compared to other years, some of these televote scores were brutal. Like, I predicted one country to get single digits. Wasn't there like 6 or 7? Like Ireland getting 12th place with a whopping 10 points should not be a thing that happens. But it is like it's going to be. I reckon we're going to get a lot more zeros now if this system carries on. It's not just going to be a one-off thing with Romania and San Marino, because Eurovision fans, I think in general, when watching the show, we saw this with like the 4 zeros in 2021. They're not going to put up with like meh entries in a contest if there's not a song that people like. Nah, you ain't getting anything. Not 1 or 2, nothing. I was thinking this earlier. Everyone's got flags around them, and then Jess is in all caps. Jess,
it was actually not painful. I have made peace with our results. I think similar to James Newman in 2021. I think we got the result that reflected what we put out on stage. But yeah, I don't know what happened to my flag. I lost it, and I can't get it back.
And you've changed your name to all caps as well.
Let's just say hello to Clavs from Latvia.
Hi, Vicky.
Adam saying Latvia just cannot catch a break. Let's have a look. I saw someone asking about the rest of the world, about how the rest of the world points were announced. Here we are. I think it's Adam. Were you the only one expecting a spokesperson from somewhere like Zimbabwe?
I was.
I was personally expecting Borat from Kazakhstan, but I think I was in the.
What about the whole rest of the world thing actually during the 2 weeks until it got to the live shows, and we're like, oh, can the rest of the world vote now in the semi-finals, and how's that going to be done? Then when it came to the final, we were wondering whether they were going to announce the rest of the world votes kind of from the stage, but announce them separately, but they just blended it all in with the
televotes,
which I thought was a shame, because then we had to wait to see how the rest of the world had voted. But yeah,
the votes were actually quite different from the actual televotes, because the rest of the world, I think, gave Albania 10 in the semi-final.
They gave 12 to Albania.
No,
they gave
12. Yeah,
12. And then 12 to Israel in the semi and the final.
And then they gave Spain 40% of their points, or 60% of their points, I'm pretty sure, from the televote.
Yeah, I think they gave 2 to Spain in the televote.
Yeah,
I'm not opposed to having it in further years. I think it's a really good addition to have, and in all fairness, I doubt it will actually change the results sometime. And it's really nice for people outside of Europe to have a say as well, and we can see that it's been perceived really well also by our friends inside Eurovox and outside of Eurovox who are not inside of Europe. So I really like it.
I would say, especially if we change up this jury system where we have potentially more juries, why not have a rest of the world jury? Because then you could reflect like 2 people per continent or something like that. Like that, because then you get the spokesperson, you get the nice moment. Like again,
that would be nice.
It'll be a nice thing which won't impact the results a ridiculous amount.
That would be nice, yeah.
We could get Madonna back to announce.
No, absolutely not. We can leave Madonna in the history books of Eurovision. She was a thing that happened, and let's move on.
Riyadh, UK could have represented Ukraine more aside from Kalush. It's disappointing that we all getting mostly snippets of their winners during the flag opening. So we're in the fortunate position to have been able to speak to the Ukrainian executive producer who's working on the Ukrainian side, and she was extremely happy with and has also had a big say in how Ukraine is represented in this contest. It was a joint production. The BBC haven't just said this is what we're going to do. It's been a joint production between the BBC and the Ukrainian broadcaster. So the Ukrainian TV are quite happy. We also got to speak to someone who was there representing OGAY Ukraine as well. They were also really happy with how Ukraine had been embraced in the show. But outside of that as well, we also got to see Liverpool and how Ukraine was a huge feature around it. And we probably saw more Ukrainian flags than British flags throughout the whole of Liverpool. So
and the birds as well.
Didn't come across on the TV screen as much, but we can confirm that both the Ukrainian broadcaster and the Ukrainian fan club were extremely happy with how Ukraine had been presented. But obviously, everyone will have a different opinion. And while we're talking about that, just what an opening of this year. With surprises that we didn't know about as well. We didn't know about Andrew Lloyd Webber, Sam Ryder, Kate Middleton, Miss Banks, who was the rapper. Who else was in there? I think we had a ballet company as well.
A lot of people.
Yeah, and for me, the semi-final interval acts were just so beautiful, and it was pure Ukraine. So my favorite one was the second semi-final, with like this Christmas song or Carol of the Bells song. Yes. I love that whole interval act. I think it's one of the best for me in a very long time.
Joss Stone as well, because when she did come on in the press centre, everyone was like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's Joss Stone. I was surprised they used Joss Stone because I don't think she's had a big hit for a while. She's got an amazing voice, so it's a surprise to see her. But yeah, I've got a question here. Someone was asking about the Lee Sanderson wants to know what was our impression of the Eurovision Village. I'm afraid we didn't have time to go, but Harry, Antoine, and Dylan,
I did not
have all been there. No,
I wasn't allowed to go in because my bag was too big, so I can't say anything about it.
Oh,
all right. Dylan, you were there.
Yeah, I was there with Harry sometimes. It was actually really, really good. No shade at Italy, but last year Eurovillage was not meeting everyone's expectation, to put it nicely. This year Liverpool did an amazing performance. Really, the village was great. We had everything we needed. There was enough space. The sound system and the giant screen to view the shows were good as well. We had everything we needed, and also it was really good because I mean, it might sound like details, but it's actually important and it matters a lot for the audience. We had enough entries, enough exits. We had everything we needed, and the organization was good, and the programmation as well was really good. It also emphasized the Ukrainian artists in the past year, but not only. We had amazing performances from the 2023 acts, including some of the favorites. So altogether, it was a nice place where to go and enjoy the show if you couldn't actually get into the arena for the final or the semifinals. So really, I think, once again, Liverpool did an amazing job. And we got lucky because the weather was quite good, actually, which is surprising, for Liverpool.
Yeah, we're talking about things that we didn't expect at Eurovision this year. Sunshine and hot weather was right, guys.
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, at first I was sad. I was like, oh, last year it was Italy. It was sunny. We had fun. It's the UK. I mean, no offense, but the UK during spring might be a bit grey. But in the end, no, it was absolutely amazing. The weather was great, and we enjoyed most of it.
Sadly, the one day that I was
next
there,
year we're going to a Nordic country next year.
Sadly, the one day that I was there, the weather was not too what I am about. But I'm glad you enjoyed the weather.
We have a bit of an ongoing joke here, because every carpet event at Eurovision, I normally get like a little sunburn on my neck, and you can always see it in the videos, because I progressively get burnt during the carpet event, because you're on the carpet for 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes. Actually, I think it's probably been the longest one, and the sun is always out, like I was in Lisbon, Tel Aviv. It rained in Rotterdam, I think, so that was one where I didn't get burnt. But I was saying, no, I'm not going to get burnt in Liverpool. I got burnt again, guys, and I still got the white line from where my chain was. Weather came out of the Eurovision this year.
I remember that someone else got burned here, almost. I think Harry.
What? No. You're confusing, dude. No. That can't have been me. Look, I'll be honest. It's a UK Eurovision. I didn't think I'd need sun cream. Okay, I thought we'd be fine on that front.
Fair enough. I didn't brought my sunglasses. I was like, I'm going to Liverpool. There is no need for them. So,
I remember I optimistically packed shorts. I was like, just in case. Didn't.
I remember waiting for an Uber and looking at everyone, and everyone was wearing something completely different. Like, if you would have taken a photo, you would not know where we're standing, because I was with my winter coat. These guys were in sleeves, and
I was just seeing a couple of comments about running order, so we'll pick that up, and then we're going to have to go, guys. So it's been a long one. But running order, I'm going to say running order does have an impact, and it always will. But I'm seeing a couple of comments about, should we be looking at back to a random running order, or could we be looking at doing something different? I did see someone saying about having groups of 5 or something.
It's interesting because I did have a discussion with other friends about this, and we were saying that maybe you could do quarters instead of halves. But then again, if you get too many similar songs in one quarter, you'd have to have them up to each other. And I think this half system is both fair and gives the producers enough space to create a good flowing running order, a good flowing show. So I think halves is fine.
We could do thirds.
I think
then sorry, go on.
I would have to disagree with all of you, actually. I think kind of having the halves, as we've seen this year, and I think also 2015 is a good example of this. You have a lot of kind of up-tempo, poppy songs in one half and a lot of ballads and slow songs in the other half. And in my opinion, balanced. I would scrap any half, quarter, third, whatever. And just when the semi-finalists qualify to the final and you have the big five in the host country, have the host country automatically assign like a running order, but then just have everyone else, the other 25 songs, just free for the producers to put them anywhere, not to be limited to first half or second half. I think that would work better because they would be able to separate similar songs throughout 25 songs rather than like 13.
I think the problem with that system, as much as I can see the positives, is you allow the producers to have more freedom to push forward the favourites or potentially ones that did well in the semi-finals and harm the ones that didn't do as well. I think halves is a nice balance. First of all, we can't. As someone that's slightly OCD and likes maths, we can't do halves. We can't do thirds or quarters on a regular basis because 26 does not go into 3 or 4, so that would just be awkward. But also, I think halves gives you a nice flow as well. It allows for the most likely scenario, as much as Finland and Sweden were in the same half, the most likely scenario is the favourites will be roughly evenly split out. So there's a nice flow that you can have throughout the show that the running order people are forced to do rather than potentially pushing all the favourites near the back or giving every favourite a good slot. I would say, yeah, I think when it comes to running order in general, first of all, never go back to random. I think Aero Nero opening the entire Eurovision contest in 2012 has scarred everyone from ever going back to random running orders. But also, I think it does need to be looked at as why running order is one of the main reasons why I don't think you could ever go back to televote only. Because let's be real here. Austria were completely killed by going first in the televote. Like, they would never have got that low if they had just even like near like 7 or like 10. The fact it opened, every opener usually gets killed by the televote. So that's another reason why you just can't have only televote in this system. And yeah, I think running order, again, similar to how I feel about jury and televote, the running order system, how it is probably the fairest way. It allows songs, it allows a nice flow while also spreading out favorites accordingly.
Thanks God someone from Eurovox can do maths.
Maths and Eurovision don't mix very well, apart from the scores. And
well, I remember I found out I can actually remember quite a few running orders from like recent years while I was out in Liverpool. It's a weird skill. It's a useless one, but it's one I have to have.
I don't even know this year's running order anymore, so
I didn't know it on Saturday. But guys, if you're not watching us live, do comment under the video. We've discussed quite a lot of things tonight: juries, televotes, running orders, all sorts, Jedward. So please do comment down below under the video if you're not watching us live. If you're new here tonight, please subscribe. And if you're not new, thank you for subscribing already. And yeah, I can't remember what do I normally say at the end of these videos?
TikTok, Instagram, everything.
Spotify, podcast.
TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Go and follow us there. And let's just say thank you to Harry, Clara, Twan, Jess, Dylan, and everyone in the live chat. It's been insane tonight. And guys, if you want us to come back for more, scream at us on our socials, please. We know you're probably all suffering from PED at the moment, and we'd love to be able to come back and help you guys with that as much. So, guys, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye.
Bye.